To set it up, what we need to have are 4 pages that are side by side with each other. So I'll keep this open as my example. We'll go to File and create a new document. The size of these are going to be 5 inches wide, 8 inches tall. I do need 4 pages. And I'm going to turn off facing pages. We're going to move those around later. Got mine set to picas, so let's just type in 5IN and 10IN. That'll convert that to inches. And as far as margins go, 0.25 inches. So 1 pica 6 for there. Everything else will remain the same. We'll say OK. And this is the document that we have set up. Notice that each of my pages is on top of each other. What I want is for them to be side by side. Now, if I was to click and drag them now, I can readjust the order of the pages, nothing's on them. But to move them beside each other, I need to tell InDesign that I want to shuffle the documents. So at the very top of your Pages palette is this icon. If we uncheck Allow Document Pages to Shuffle, now I can click each page and drag it beside there. Notice the little bracket when I do that. And this will give me a set of documents side by side as far as I need to do. It's a great way to set up something if you have a brochure and each of the pages needs to be side by side and you want to export each page as a different PDF. That's the way to do it. You can work from there. All cool? Now that we've got this one set up, next thing we need to do, let's place some pictures into here. Grab a picture box and let's drop in the different motorcycles. These will be very big, so we will need to scale them down. We'll do the same for this one. And I'll set up these two. So these are the images we're working with. Graphically, however, I want to add a little bit more emphasis to the way they look. Rather than keeping them in a square box, I want to do what I call a peekaboo box. This is where you've got a frame, usually one shape, and something's peeking out of it. It's breaking outside of the frame's shape. In my example that I showed you, I've got this circular kind of frame, and you can see it's breaking out of that circled frame. However, if I was to use a circle frame, let's try that. You don't have to have a square for everything. There's a circle ellipse. We'll drop one in. Scale it up. There's no way I can cut this out of my frame. I would have to modify my frame in some way. Of course, I can move things around inside of it, or I can change the size and shape of my frame. But my image is still going to stay inside of it. Instead of doing this, what I want to be able to do is to mask off the area that I want to get rid of. So in this case, it would be the background, and keep the area that's inside of it. And to do this, we use what's called a clipping mask. We've used clipping masks, or you'll use them in Photoshop and Illustrator. You can do them in InDesign as well. So here's how to construct the clipping mask. I've already got one image. I'm going to open this one up in Photoshop. Select the image, Control-click. Remember, we can edit this, bring it up in Photoshop. So here's the image that we have. The two palettes that you'll need open, really the only palette you need open, is your Paths palette. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make a vector path to tell me exactly where my mask is going to be at. In Photoshop, you do have some vector tools. They're usually towards the bottom of your toolbox. Your type tool, you've even got a pen tool, selection, and you've got your pre-made shapes. In this case, we've got an ellipse tool and other things. Whenever I select a tool, there's a couple of modes we can work in when using vector objects. Usually by default, up here at the very top, you've got shape, path, and pixels. If you have shape selected, I'm going to choose that one, and I make a circle. Check out what I have. First of all, why is it orange? That's what my fill color was. And you can change it up here as well. There's my fill, there's my stroke, just as in Illustrator. In my layers, it's going to put that shape on its own layer. And in my paths, there's my vector path that I'm working with. I really don't care about having an orange circle on my document. I just want the path. So I'm going to undo this. So the first thing we need to do is make sure you're working in path mode. Now this time when I draw my circle, check out what I have. I don't have its own layer, nothing's filled in, and in my paths I've got a working path. That's what you want to be able to see. Make sure you're working in path mode when creating everything. As far as the placement of the circle, I want to make sure the front end is sticking out a little bit, and I'm emphasizing the body. You're not going to worry about the back side of it. Now let's have fun. Let's add the front end to my selection. If I zoom in, maybe a little difficult to see, but you can see where the edge of that is. What I need to do is I need to add on to that selection and select the rest of the motorcycle. Let's move this out of the way. To do this, we found that the regular pen tool tends to be the best option to do that. Now to add on to my circle, here's the second thing to keep in mind. Make sure you're working in combine shapes mode. Otherwise, if you draw another shape, it's just going to erase away wherever it's overlapping. So I want to make sure I'm combining both of those shapes, path and combine. Then it's simply a matter, I'll go quick with this, of there's the edge of my circle. I'm just going to start drawing and using my pen to go around the edge of it. If I do make a mistake, you've got a direct selection tool. You can go back, clean up your edges. I wish the pen tool in Photoshop was as easy to use as in Illustrator. Can't use my spacebar in Photoshop. Like I said, I'll go quick. Alright, there's the other edge of my circle right there. I could go back down here. Let's get the little kickstand. There's that there. So now everything else is inside the circle. I really don't have to worry about drawing off the rest of mine. I'm just going to connect one end with the starting edge, which is right here. I'm sorry, it's right there. There we go. So I've got a circle and I've got the front end of the motorcycle highlighted off. Check out my working path. That's the way it looks from there. That's going to be the basis for my clipping path. I'm going to tell InDesign to keep everything that's inside, everything that's white in our working path, and it's going to mask out the rest of it. To save your working path, here's the second bit of magic. We've got to give this a name. We can't keep it working path. So all I'm going to do is double click. It's going to ask for a name. You can keep it path 1. We'll say OK. And then all I have to do is save my document. JPEG will keep your clipping path, so we'll use that. And I'll close this out and return to Illustrator, or InDesign. Now it did update my image. Since I've saved a clipping path to there, this is where it's saved. Let's add it to here. Under Object, Clipping Path will open up the options. And from here, you can choose what type of path it is. There's my Photoshop path. From there, here's path 1 that we saved. If you've got multiple paths that you created, these will also be listed as well. But here it is, masked out by itself. If I say OK, I can commit and keep that from there. Additionally, if I need to scale it up, now it'll work like any other picture. Just make sure it stays inside of the frame. If you try to add a clipping path that's not saved to an image, let's see if this one had one saved. If I go to Object, Clipping Path, Options, see, there's no Photoshop clipping path that's already there to work with. The second way of working with this, a lot of times you'll get pictures where they have a white background or a green background. You can have it detect the edges of a picture, especially if it's white in the background. Since this one isn't, you can see it's actually trying to pick up on the white edges, and you can adjust the tolerance thereof. This one's not going to work very well. There we go. It's sort of clipping out the lighter areas. I said OK. There it is, clipped that way. Doesn't give you the best results though. Making your own clipping path and cutting around it, that's really what you want to do from here. Okay, So I've got my image clipped out. You'll do the same thing for each of the photographs, all 4 of them. From here, now I'll leave it up to you as to how you want to design it. If you look at the bottom of the exercise page, I'll leave it up to you to add the rest of the information. However, there's a certain way I want you to design it. Work within these parameters. And you can look at my example to see this was my answer to this particular design. Make sure the name of it is nice and large, rotated 90 degrees, and it's either on the left or the right-hand side. I want the price to be larger than any of the other body copies. So you can see it's nice and large here. The dimensions and the performance information. So this is this down here. Here's the dimensions, here's performance. Those need to be grouped together. Since they're common information, you don't want to have them separated apart. Keep them close proximity with each other. The image must be of the motorcycle, has to be at the top, and set the colors of the background text to, or the text to fit the color that you find on the image itself. So the blues that I picked up from here were picked up from the sky. The reds or the orange, browns were picked up from inside of this image as well. Use your images to determine your color scheme that you're working on. Any questions on this? All cool? So if you look at the text, like I said, you got text box. Here's the information. There's the price, dimensions, the write-up about that. I'll leave it up to you as far as what fonts you want to use, how you want to design. You can add extra decorative elements like lines, boxes, shadows, transparency changes, those types of things, blending modes. Do one for each of the areas. Cool? Okay. I'm going to turn it over to y'all. Oh, by the way, when you are finished, save it as a PDF. Smallest file size is okay. The PDF is what you're going to upload to Moodle once you are finished. All right, I will turn it over to y'all and let y'all get started.